Hello everyone, and welcome back to the campaign diary for my Rime and the Frostmaiden campaign, Aracséa edition. In today's session, the party get involved with local politics and dive into the murder of Speaker Rail Barrow. So for those keeping track of time, no in-game days have passed in this one, as unfortunately it was only really half a session. As you may have noticed, I'm calling this session 8.5. One of the players had to rush off for an emergency, an unexpected emergency, so we had to cut the session short, which was a shame, but you know, it can't be helped. Sometimes these things happen. We didn't get to the nice juicy bit at the end of the session, but so nevertheless, I thought it's better to make, you know, a thing or a campaign diary for what we have managed to do, and we'll just collate the two parts later on. So nevertheless, here's the first part of what would be session 9, session 8.5. So the party head off to Goodmead from where we left off last time, and in good time, arriving just as nightfall begins to settle. They didn't do much in Bryn Shander after the fallout of last session, so they just head straight to Goodmead. But we did spend a bit of time bringing people back up to speed, as it has been some real lifetime since we all last all played. So they all arrive in Goodmead, and they notice a stage has been set up near the Speaker's Hall, and along with it, in the village square, a series of carts that perhaps carry packed away foodstuffs and drinks and things like that. Of course, none of them are aware of the customs of 10 towners and what the political process include, and I don't know what all of this is for. I think someone comes up with a suggestion that maybe like a travelling food market or something, but they later will discover that it's for a period after the election known as the Week of Feasts, where 10 towners celebrate their new leadership, and they generally just try to show off their wares and try to impress the new speaker so they can, you know, get a leg up politically and get trade contracts and things like that. But anyway, yes, they actually decide to investigate Olivessa's claims about her adopted father's body. Remember how she wanted to, you know, she was convinced that he had been killed, not by the known gossip, which is he was smashed by the giant, but Olivessa believes he was actually shot by some of Merrin's men. But yeah, so they sneak into the Speaker's Hall through a bent over tree that leads to the balcony outside of the master bedroom, something that they suspect a young Olivessa may have used to sneak in and out as a child. So once inside, they examine the room, they examine the body, and indeed discover that the speaker's body has been. They first inspect it, and they conclude that it's been well maintained, and clearly some sort of mortician has come to embalm and prepare the body for the afterlife. Something that Stronus acknowledges that only nobles would likely have this been done. He's very respectful while dealing with the body as well, conscious. Ugly yawn. Excuse me, sorry. Conscious of how Georga treat their ancestors, and using some of that tradition in mind to while he examines the body, Stronus also discovers that there are indeed 3 well-hidden small puncture wounds on his chest. He can't really decide if that was like hidden on purpose or if it's just like the mortician doing its job properly. He couldn't really discern. But, you know, it does kind of lay evidence that perhaps he was shot in the chest at some point. Rainer finds some notes written in Dwarvish alongside a bottle of firewater on a bedside table near him. And the letters are basically letters from Olivessa saying things like, "I'm sorry I didn't get to thank you for what you've done," and things like that. Just general notes that this nervous woman would have, how she would have communicated with her adopted father, perhaps even in his life, as she may have done that kind of thing. So they do a quick investigation of the rest of the speaker's house. They're mainly looking for evidence of like foul play, thinking perhaps he was killed in the hall first out of some sort of dispute, and then placed outside later. They also have they play around with the theory that perhaps a number of the guards are maybe involved with it somehow, you know, or at least maybe ready for a coup or something along those lines, but they don't find anything inside the house. They end their investigation there and intend to follow up the plot with trying to find Merrin and talking to Merrin to see if they can get any intent out of him, what his plans are for the Goodmead and things like that. They have a little discussion about where their politics might lie in general, but it doesn't end. It's a very brief discussion, let's put it that way. So They suspect Merrin is of course probably around here somewhere, as he's made his way back to Goodmead ready for the election. So our runaways head to the Ravensweech Mead Hall, hoping to find him there. He isn't there. Instead, they order some drinks and they chat with Lacey, who's like the night manager of sorts, and they arrange some rooms and ask about Merrin and a few of the other people. Should be around at that kind of time. She tells them basically that Merrin does pop around, but he no doubt will stay in an inn that is just 30 minutes out of the village up towards the East Road. So with that news, they spend some time discussing, if they were to find him, to check out into the night and find this hotel, what information do they intend to get from Merrin? Is it in their best interests to confront him with their accusations and things like that? But after about, 15 minutes of this, they decide to head off, and they find this inn on the road. So they head off, and like I say, no more than 30 minutes north and slightly off the beaten track, they see a giant headstone of sorts. It's like this ritual marker, this huge stone left by the frost giants of yesteryear, and beside it is a large building, a hotel of sorts, called the Hall of the Lonely Lord. And they enter the hotel and talk with the nightkeeper there, a somewhat tired and blunt middle-aged man called Reith Gorla. They talk to him about the candidates staying there and how many of them are there, what rooms they're in. They order rooms themselves as well, so they can get access to them. And they spend a bit of time planning what they intend to do. I'll go more. Sorry. So wow. I'll go into more detail about some of the candidates in the next campaign diary, but for now, just know that most of them are staying in that hotel. So they go to their rooms, they discuss what they intend to find out, they think about how they're going to go about getting information from Merrin, and again, after another 20 minutes or so of coming up with ideas, they discuss perhaps scaling the windows at some point, and I'm like, but it's very good, it's going to be very slippery, and it's going to be difficult. You are, 10 feet off the floor kind of thing. You're on a second floor with the exquisite rooms that you're in. They also, Raina suggests seducing him. Of course she does, because she thinks she's all that. And they dismiss that, and then there's a few other bad ideas they come up with. Before Stronus comes up, realizes he has a spell called Detect Thoughts, and he could use it to pry into Merrin's mind to find out his intentions and suspicions if he has any. So that's the plan they end up going with. Oh, okay, sorry. So they head to Merrin's room. They knock on the door, and after a while of introductions, the door is opened by two bodyguards that stand at either end of the door once the group is inside. Merrin is there in a fancy pyjama robe of sorts and offers them all a drink. Stronus immediately picks up on an amount of fear that Merrin seems to have circling in the surface of his head, perhaps afraid that these adventurers had been sent to kill him or something. Perhaps Merrin had suspected that Neth, the Speaker of Targos, has got it in for him or something like that. We don't know. But anyway, as they kind of begin to chat with Merrin a little bit, he begins to calm down somewhat and ends up describing the election process and announcing his intentions for what he plans to do with Goodmead when he wins, which he's pretty certain of, actually. He seems very adamant that he's going to win. Alarmingly so. He bides for the runaway support, noting them as heroes, that they may be gifted a vote and that kind of thing. And I think the runaways successfully kind of feign interest in supporting him, which Merrin somewhat believes. Stronus then attempts to do his prying with the Detect Force spell, and Merrin is able to resist it, which unfortunately means he becomes aware that the spell was cast on him. But Merrin doesn't let them know that he knows, that kind of thing. So they hastily finish up the conversation, and I think just a short talk afterwards. For some reason, they believe Merrin not to be directly involved with the speaker's death. They come to that conclusion somehow. I'm not entirely sure where that conversation, what led them to believe that, but there we go. That is what they're going with. At any rate, pretty much after that, that is where we had to leave it off, I'm afraid. That's just when the emergency came up and we had to end the session early. Like I said, it is a shame we didn't get to the real juicy bit of the actual election day with the stuff that's got planned to happen, but we'll have to wait until we can next reconvene. And when I say some real juicy stuff, it is really good. It's gonna be like a little wake up call, and I won't spoil it for you guys. I know what kind of this thing is about. But I will leave it as a surprise for next time. Anyway, until then, thank you guys for watching. Sorry about this being a bit of a shorter one. It's being a bit rambly as well. Thanks always for watching. This has been session 8.5 Election Day Part 1, and we will see you guys next time.